So, couple things I want to say. Okay. I am not a very intelligent person, as you guys know, right? Never said that I was. I'm a Twitch streamer, not the smartest guy out there, you know. But there are certain things that I feel like I am decently, understandably skeptical on. And one of those narratives was how quickly people made up counters when there was like a fairly obvious, consistent thing that was occurring as Israel was bombing Gaza. Now, I want to say something about the New York Times investigation that concluded yesterday that showed that every single fucking person that ran with this, like a rocket was intercepted possibly or failed on its own and fell on a hospital. Every single person that ran with that was like rushing to judgments that that they wanted to arrive at, that just shifted the responsibility away of 6,000, 7,000 bombs at that point. On the 7,001st bomb not being Israel. And that still might be true. I'm going to say that. I want to make sure that you guys understand. Okay? This is not 100% conclusive. Okay? Let's get started on this real quick and let's talk about it, because I've said this before. I really, really trust Eric Toller. Okay? He is very good at a lot of this like OSINT forensics and visual investigation stuff, and also Evan Hill. These are two people in the forensics investigation side that I really trust. I think that they are very even keeled. They're very balanced. Specifically, Evan, of course, very famously, his team. He was part of a team that uncovered the last bombing out of Kabul, as you guys know, which completely eviscerated America's horrifying and gross lies about the unlawful, unjustifiable execution of an entire family in Afghanistan. And those are the types of things. I trust MHUD. MHUD says he's known Eric for a long time, pre-Bellingcat, and he's always been very good. So if MHUD says Eric is good, and I've only seen good things about Eric, I've only seen good work from Eric. Okay. And I personally vouch for Evan Hill. Evan Hill is at WAPO. He used to be at New York Times Visual Investigation, and now he's at Washington Post. Now, these are not like random OSINT guys. I mean, even though I do talk to some random OSINT guys, including Archie Irving, who I want to fucking say I apologize for. I don't know if you're in here or not. I know someone sent me his thread before, and I didn't even look at it because I thought it was another fucking OSINT flub. But we'll talk about it in a second. So, the New York Times conducted a fairly comprehensive investigation on the IDF and U.S. intelligence narratives on the bombing of the Al Ahli hospital. Okay? They looked at all of the footage that is currently available. They looked at trajectories. They mapped out trajectories, and they recognized that both the IDF and the U.S. intelligence had lied about the counter evidence that they had provided to beef up their narrative that it was actually a rocket misfire, but also maybe it was actually a rocket failure that you could possibly see. They used the Al Jazeera footage. Now, if you were in here on the day of and you saw me cover this, you saw me look at the Al Jazeera footage where we quickly found out, the longer Al Jazeera footage, the live stream, where we quickly found out that the IDF and the IAF, the Israeli Air Force, had lied about conducting bombing campaigns in that area. That was the first lie. That was a very big lie. Because if you recall, once the Al Ahli hospital courtyard was bombed, they immediately turned around and said, we were not conducting operations in that area. Some people might forget. I do not. I was there. I was covering it in fucking real time. And I saw that that was not true. That was day one. We knew that day fucking one. Okay? So a couple things happened, though. Osin Andes, even before Israel said it was a rocket misfire, very quickly ran with that narrative. And I think that was an early narrative to fucking adopt. Why? Because you had not seen the impact site. You had not seen the crater at that point. And you had just simply ran with that narrative that was completely destroyed. Geo confirmed that OSINT guy, Geo confirmed, literally had this massively viral fucking thread where he made an insane assertion that was ridiculed by even stupid people like myself, where possibly the rocket that you see that explodes in mid-flight actually fell on the Al Ahli hospital and was capable of exploding and killing hundreds of people in this courtyard. That is an unacceptable narrative to go along with. That just made no fucking sense, especially at a time when all of the circumstantial evidence pointed to this being yet another Israeli bombing. There was bombing campaigns happening in the area. Israel had bombed the hospital prior with an incendiary, with an artillery shell, an illumination artillery shell. Okay, Israel had told this hospital to evacuate multiple times. People on the ground who are basically experts at this point of being bombed because they experience it all the time. But of course, first-hand accounts and eyewitness testimony in that regard is always going to be not the most reliable, had also said that this was yet another Israeli bombing. So having said that, people still ran along with this narrative that, like, oh my God, no, this definitely is a rocket misfire. Out of the 7,000 bombs that Israel has dropped, the 7,001st bomb is not Israel. It's actually Hamas, or maybe it's PIJ. To be honest, for Geo confirmed at that point, there was limited evidence, and once more came out, they deleted it. No, that thread had gone viral, and it doesn't matter. Even with limited evidence, it is crazy to me. I do respect that he took responsibility for it, which many don't, and deleted the prior thread. But it is crazy to me to look at 6,000 fucking bombs over the course of the past week and go, the 6,001st one, even before you see an impact crater, must not be Israel. This must be someone else. That was a ridiculous fucking take. Okay? Like, I respect that he took it back. I respect that he admitted that he was wrong on his original analysis, but plenty of people pointed out how fucking unimaginably silly that is, right? The only video evidence available at the time was the verified balcony footage that showed audio cues that are consistent with a possible guided missile strike. Okay, a Mark 84 JDAM that Israel uses regularly. Now, I was wrong on that. I saw that and I thought, oh, this is yet another Israeli airstrike. They're already doing bombing campaigns in the area. Of course, it makes sense that this would be another bombing campaign in that area. However, I admit, once I saw the impact, once I saw the crater and engaged in a little bit of fucking, Western OSINT analysis, I very quickly also came to the conclusion that this impact crater was not consistent with a Mark 84 strike. It's just the truth. Okay? It's just the truth. Which then eliminated that conclusion entirely. Still did not actually eliminate the idea that this was an Israeli bombing. Okay? But once people looked at the impact, and once people looked at the crater, then they really started pushing this line that it was certainly not an Israeli bomb, but instead a Palestinian bomb. Now, are there actual reasons as to why this could still be a rocket misfire? Is there enough evidence? Absolutely. Okay? Yes. There is certainly evidence for it. I recognize that. Impact crater shows, and the damage done shows signs very consistent with the rocket misfire, with the only exception being the number of casualties and how large the explosion was. So that's one problem there. The second problem, and perhaps the most important problem, is that Hamas or any other like on the ground team on the Palestinian side has not shown a fragment from the missile. Missiles do not evaporate. Missiles have fragmentation. This is a key part of the evidence, okay? The fact that Hamas's take on this was that the missile had perished like salt in water is not a good sign for them, okay? Not. However, they also said that they welcome foreign investigations into the matter on the ground. Now, could they say that knowing full well that Israel will not allow it? Certainly. Could they say that knowing full well that no one can go into North Gaza right now because Israel is like absolutely fucking bombing the shit out of northern Gaza still to this day? That could possibly be the reason. But if there was one side that was open to a third-party UN investigation, it was Hamas, and the side that was not open to a third-party investigation was Israel and the United States of America. So that's something to also consider. So there is misinformation, or rather inconsistent information and confusing information coming from either side, which is why my analysis still lands on this being the likely factor here being Israel, because they have dropped more than 7,000 bombs on Gaza since October 7th. Okay? And the only way for the way that I would change my mind on this, of course, is if there is, and I said this on the first day, a third-party analysis that engages in like chemical testing on the ground, looking at the soil composition, looking at doing things that you normally would do in the aftermath of a missile strike to figure out exactly who did it. Figure out who done it, okay? So, here's the important part. Israeli and U.S. intelligence officials believe that a projectile captured on video shortly before the Ahli Arab hospital explosion was a Palestinian rocket. New York Times visual investigations found that this object was launched from Israel and likely unrelated to the deadly blast. Here it is. This is most likely an interceptor that exploded a rocket. And so, therefore, the Al Jazeera analysis was correct. Don't 50% of all Hamas missiles fail, though? They do. You are absolutely correct on this. 15% of Hamas missiles do fail. When they fail, do they fall on Gaza? Sometimes they do. The death count when a Hamas missile fails, however, and falls or misfires and changes its trajectory, is oftentimes marginal, never more than 5 or 6 people at a time. Okay? The casualty numbers, even by the most conservative European estimates, have been around 50. Minimum 50. Okay? So, that's something very important to consider. So, even if you think that only 50 people died there and that, like, the healthcare professionals that are not even related to the Gazan health ministry on the ground miscounted the number of dead, okay, somehow. Even then, even if it was 50, it would still be a massively deadly singular strike, something that is not within the capabilities. Now, where's the Eric Toller article, though? I don't know why this thread doesn't show the rest of it. I'm a little confused here. Oh, here it is. An IDF spokesperson went on CNN and BBC with a printed out screenshot from the Al Jazeera live stream showing this projectile, which I thought was really funny because this Al Jazeera live stream also immediately disproved what Israel was saying about how they had no bombing campaigns happening in the fucking area. Why do you omit the possibility of an airburst that decimates the missile completely? Great question. Because an airburst missile, okay, still has a shit ton more explosives in it that is inconsistent with a on-the-ground crater that you saw. An airburst missile is still significantly larger. It would not create a crater that size it would not also only turn up 3 fucking cars. It would actually completely destroy that entire courtyard and possible parts of the hospital as well. This is the real reason why I do not believe that it's an airburst missile as well. Okay? Many people, like I said this in the first day, or rather the second day when we saw the impact, when we saw the crater, I told you the crater is too small for it to be the regular munitions that Israel uses, but also too large for it to be a drone strike that Israel also regularly uses as well. And a drone strike that Israel uses would not lead to that many casualties anyway. So it was, but that doesn't entirely rule out the munitions of Israel. Obviously, they have a very broad range of munitions that they've used. So I don't know. I don't know if there's something out there that I'm unfamiliar with that could make a crater size like that. Okay? However, one thing you have to remember is mortars and artillery that Israel has used on this hospital is very consistent with the crater that you've seen. The only difference between that and the only problem there in the artillery argument is that artillery is very hard to aim. Okay? It's very hard to aim. But considering that they had already hit this hospital, literally, what is this? My 17-year-old cousin from Gaza was a big supporter of yours. He was martyred yesterday along with his family in a missile strike in his own home. I only recently discovered you through him. Thank you for doing what you do. Holy shit. Sorry for your loss, man. Khaled, my 17-year-old cousin from Gaza was a big supporter of yours. Shit. Rest in power to him. Oh. Jesus Christ. Still on the hospital missile. What about the doubling in Palestinians in prison since October 7 up to 10K now captive and prison cell capacity has been removed? Yes. I don't think anyone can tell me that I am. I don't think anyone can fucking tell me that I have used this distraction and have like completely stopped dead in my tracks in my coverage of things that are going on in Palestine. This is just a simple update that I'm offering for people who are maybe stubborn just like I am. So, but it is important. This is important because one aspect of my coverage revolves around media narratives. One aspect of my coverage revolves around media narratives. Okay? And how quickly the media jumped to that conclusion, how quickly those in the OSINT community jumped to this could not have possibly been an Israeli rocket when 6,000 others have hit on Israel's own admission was alarming to me. And the fact that every single respectable media person also ran along with that as soon as the IDF said, look at the crater, look at the size of it. Here is some inconsistent ass evidence that we posted that you should just take at our word, even though we have lied time and time again in identical situations in the past. Anyway, it's important because it's ridiculous that it took like a week to fucking conclusively say this is a fucking bullshit counter that they offered. Even if this is a fucking misfire, this does not discount the thousands of children that Israel has murdered over the course of the past 2 weeks. Okay? It doesn't change my mind, and it should not change your mind on the emancipation of Palestinians, unless your argument literally is it's only bad when Palestinian forces accidentally kill Palestinians. It's perfectly fine and valid when Israel kills them. Okay? When Israel deprives them of water, power, food, when Israel only gives them a little bit back, 22 fucking trucks, as though that is some humanitarian aid that is good enough for 2.2 million people. Okay? Israel is still engaging in ethnic cleansing, regardless of whether this was a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket or whether it was the 7,001st Israeli bomb that was dropped. Yemek masasına bak. Yemek masası. Anyway, but it's important. We geolocated 5 videos that showed this projectile launch from north, south, east, and west. By drawing lines of perspective, 3 of which can be seen here, we assessed that this project was launched from near the Israeli city of Nahal Oz, where there is an interceptor. We cannot say with confidence what exactly this projectile is, but we know that there is at least one Iron Dome launch site. What? Sorry. He was very moved by your Emotional Leftovers podcast and shared it with our family in the WhatsApp group. Your ability to speak on what's happening moves us all. Thanks. Shit, dude. So fucking 17 years old, man. Fucking hell. Okay. So I'm going to continue. Okay. This site was still present in the satellite imagery this year. There's an Iron Dome launch site in nearly the same location that overlaps with the sight lines we drew from the 5 videos. The projectile may have been launched in reaction to barrages of rockets from Gaza, which we saw on the camera footage. A timeline: 1. Palestinian rocket barrages, followed shortly by 2. Israeli projectile launch, 3. 17.5 seconds in the air before the projectile detonates, 4. Explosion at the hospital, 7 seconds later. About 25 seconds passed from the last Palestinian rocket fired an Israeli projectile to the hospital explosion. There is no visual evidence we have found that directly links these events to the blast at the Al Ahli Arab Hospital. The projectile launched from Israel detonates at least 2 miles from the hospital, and 25 seconds pass from when the final Palestinian rocket was launched in these videos and the hospital explosion. The situation in the area around the hospital was chaotic that evening. The Al Jazeera live stream of the scene, plus other videos we reviewed, shows at least 2 large explosions near the hospital in the minute before the deadly blast. And those large explosions near the hospital, as far as we understand it, were the Israeli Air Force conducting a bombing campaign, which they lied about originally, and then went back on their lie and said, yes, we were maybe doing a bombing campaign in the area, but it wasn't close enough to the hospital. That's what they fucking said. The IDF told the Times that it was striking Gaza City that evening, but said that it was not in an area that would endanger the hospital. Originally, though, they had told everyone, not just the New York Times, but everyone, that they were not conducting an air operation in that area at all. I wonder why they were not doing that. I wonder why they lied about it. And also on top of that, 3 days before the blast, a 155 millimeter illumination shell, this is artillery, commonly used by the Israeli military and not in use by Palestinian militias, was fired into the Al Ahli hospital. This is the cancer ward. Hospital administrators said that they had received warnings from the IDF telling them to evacuate. They destroyed the cancer ward with a illumination shell and actually injured 4 of the hospital staff. Okay? Here it is. This is the imagery. I've shown you this. This is all information that was readily available to every member of the fucking media. It should not have taken a week for them to compile all of this together. Okay? Our analysis does not answer what actually did cause the blast or who was responsible, but it does undercut one of the most publicized pieces of evidence used by both the American and Israeli officials. Okay? He also gave a shout out to Archie Irving, who you guys, I don't know if you're in here right now, but you guys have sent me his thread when it first literally came out, and I dismissed it offhand because I thought it was another like geo-confirmed style thread. I was wrong. He also pushed in the same way that I did over the course of the past week on one of the more important questions. And for those of you who don't know, or maybe you didn't see it because I wasn't live at the time, I was literally on Twitter pushing this exact question. The idea that like everybody single-handedly fucking decided that like, no, it was a misfire and we can see it on the fucking camera, or it was a rocket that was intercepted and fell on top of the hospital. Like all of this shit was completely fucking insane. Completely insane. Sam Cedar raid? Hey, thank you, Sam, for the raid. Now, let me tell you why. Here, I'll show you. I'll show you what the questions I had were at the time, and maybe you will understand where it was coming from, like why I had this specific question. I specifically replied once the Al Jazeera footage came out, showing that this was actually a rocket that was intercepted. Okay? Where is it? Hold on. I replied to him, and we talked, I think. I'm trying to figure out where my reply is. Uncle Sam, hope you had a good stream. And Emma, hope you had a good stream. Let me. Yes, the hospital topic is now being discussed once again, but this time with new information. Sam is stuck in jury duty. Wow, what an American he is, dude. So here's what I said, and I'll show you. So my biggest regret for my previous thread is that I didn't geolocate it myself. I said, I don't think Al Jazeera ever made claims on the trajectory. I always felt like some on OSIN Twitter added that conclusion that it was over the middle of northern Gaza and ran with it. So this is on October 19th. Okay? When the Al Jazeera investigation came out, Nathan Reuser said, this investigation is flawed and concludes that the Al Ahli hospital explosion was from an Iron Dome intercepted rocket that fell exploded. This is demonstrably untrue, as the Iron Dome is a terminal phase interceptor. It does not intercept in the launch phase. To which I responded with, that never actually happened. The Al Jazeera video, I mean, I said it in a more kind way, but I said, is that what the video is saying? Might be wrong, but it seems like they are matching the footage of the IDF claims and disproving them. What the New York Times did on their investigation mirrors what Al Jazeera wrote about on October 19th. The video never claimed that that was the rocket that fell on the hospital at all. The video never said that. The IDF made contradictory claims yesterday and even categorically denied doing bombing campaigns in the area, which is demonstrably false. He said, yeah, slightly misunderstood the Al Jazeera claims, but the operative thing is that they claimed the rocket was intercepted over Gaza, which isn't how Israel's interception systems work at all. If the rocket failed, it was not from an intercept. And I said, appreciate the clarification. Might be absolutely brain broken right now, but I am not seeing the part of the video that establishes a link between the strike that hit the Al Ahli hospital with the rocket that was intercepted, only that it was totally destroyed, not sure where on its trajectory. So, like, this is all information that was readily available since the day after the hospital bombing. So the idea, and Archie even fucking replied and said, yes, it is. Please respond to DMs, Nathan, the guy who also uncovered it, that got props from Eric Toller. Literally, we were in his fucking, in his replies being like, no, dog, nobody said the trajectory was over. Nobody said the trajectory was over Gaza. Like, we did not say that. I'm grateful for Khaled for introducing me to this community. I never had the opportunity to visit Gaza or meet my family there in person. Khaled was born into an unlawfully besieged territory and was murdered in the same, but we communicated regularly. From what he has shared, your streams gave hope to him and his friends who saw promise in the humanity you showed to their vulnerable community. Prayers to all the children of Gaza. Holy shit, dude, you're going to make me cry. And before people say, is the New York Times also manufacturing narratives against the war machine now? No, they're not. Because in this article itself, it still says, we most likely think it's a rocket misfire. There is no evidence for it, though. And that's what's frustrating about articles like this, okay? That, like, there is no evidence beyond the fact that, yes, rocket misfires happen. So if we're operating off of likelihoods, 15% of the Hamas rockets that are deployed out of, 15% of rockets that are launched out of Gaza misfire. Okay? They misfire. Fine. That there's a likelihood that this could be a rocket misfiring. I'm not discounting that. Except, you know what's also incredibly likely? And two things that are incredibly likely. One, Israel lying about doing a bombing campaign in the area when they were very clearly doing a bombing campaign in the area. And two, Israel bombing that hospital, especially after it had bombed other hospitals, including that hospital. It's fucking ridiculous. If you do not have enough evidence in either direction, you have to make an assertion that lands you on the side that has the most circumstantial evidence. It's ridiculous. So what has been deeply frustrating to me about this, and I have become like a missile autist as a consequence of this, personally. Like I've been the most OSINT Andy over the course of this past week. Not that it fucking matters at the end of the day, like I said, because like ultimately arriving at the truth of this is important for the victims, okay? However, the reality is that this does not change the dynamics. This does not change the dynamics even a little bit. And it is gross. It is fucking gross that people try to act like this is a good reason to discount the Gazan Health Ministry casualty numbers, and this is a good reason to assume that what, all of the fucking neighborhoods that have been leveled by Israel are actually fake. They're not leveled. What the fuck? I respectfully disagree because you're applying your own assumptions, which is disgusting. It's disgusting to me that there are still people at this point that fucking refuse to see the metric ton of evidence that shows that all of the counter narratives that Israel immediately rushed to put forward were false. I admit that I'm biased. I admit that I'm biased in this circumstance, but it's not necessarily that I'm just saying, well, of course Israel did it. What the fuck? I hate those guys. They're bad. I'm telling you exactly the reasons as to why I think that, of course, this is still more likely Israel's doing. And none of this, whether it is a Palestinian Islamic Jihad rocket, or whether it is another Israeli missile that accompanied 7,000 others, does not change the reality that there is ethnic cleansing happening in Gaza right now. There's ethnic cleansing happening in Israel right now, okay? It's happening. Not only false, but falsified. Should have tanked their credibility from nothing from the get-go. Yes, except most people are completely oblivious to that reality, and they do not fucking understand. Even so, when so many news sources said it was probably Hamas, yes, because news sources take what the Israeli intelligence says and repeats it uncritically and unconditionally. This is a problem. They do this with America, and it's a problem. I yell about it when it's done at the behest of the United States of America, when the American State Department will give confidential sources and pieces of information to the media, and then the media runs with that narrative because they do access journalism. And it's certainly a fucking issue, a major one, when Israel does the exact same thing as an extension of our fucking State Department. It is absolutely unimaginable. These guys need to do journalism. And if you are a journalist, your job should always be to be incredibly critical of Israeli air campaigns, specifically because they lie all the time. They have lied about the exact same situation in the past. It blows my mind that we are just looking at a situation where there's so much overwhelming evidence in one direction, and the only counter is Israel just deploying a counter narrative that literally doesn't even make sense in their own PowerPoint that they posted. Evidence that they used from a clipped, like a visual that they used from an Al Jazeera stream that immediately showed that they were doing a bombing campaign, air raids in that area, although they had lied. Moreover, here, this is important. A week after the hospital tragedy, much remains in question. The death toll, initially put at 500 by Hamas, then lowered to 471, is believed by Western intelligence agencies to be considerably lower, but no number has been verified. The hospital itself was not directly struck. Whatever caused the explosion actually hit the hospital courtyard where people had gathered for safety and a handful of parked cars. Moreover, the crater from the impact was relatively small, a fact that Israel has cited in arguing that none of its munitions caused the blast and could be consistent with a number of different munitions. Hamas has not produced remnants of an Israeli munition or any physical evidence to back up its claim that Israel is responsible. This part is actually pretty serious. That is, that in and of itself is ridiculous. Like the fact that they could not find a single fragment is definitely suspicious. Okay, that paired up with the crater, with the impact crater, when you look at the damage done on the ground, these are certainly pieces, like key details that you also have to take into consideration. Except what you must also take into consideration is, if you find this to be suspicious, then you have to also find that Israel's counterfactual was completely falsified. Like, completely and utterly falsified. I am at least honest. Okay? How are they supposed to provide it to fucking who? Come on, dog. Don't act like you don't know how this works, or maybe you don't know how this works. Okay? They literally do a press conference and they show the fucking fragment. And as a matter of fact, they could have literally shown another fragment from another bombing campaign if they chose to do so, because there's plenty of fucking fragments that they could find a block down the street. And the fact that they didn't even do that is also strange. Because if they had shown a fragment, then most people would turn around and go, that's a fake fragment from another bombing campaign. I'm new here and don't know how this works, but my message might be deleted. I just wanted to highlight the treatment of Gaza by the Israeli regime. Last year, Khaled's mother died from her very treatable cancer after the Israeli government denied her entry of her chemotherapy to Gaza due to the years-long blockade for no reason other than they could. May they all rest in power. Jesus Christ, dude. Oh. It is unimaginable the cruelty that Palestinians are subjected to. It's unimaginable, okay? Israel is engaging in an ethnic cleansing campaign, in a genocide. It is completely and utterly disgraceful. It shows the ass of the Western world, who claim that they are those who tamed the barbarians, when they are the real barbarians, okay? They are the real violent animals. Unimaginable. There's no power in Gaza, and places all seem to be using generators. Would it be possible the fire side of the explosion was the generators, the fuel? It could have been cars that blew up. We saw that the cars blew up there. It could have been an artillery that struck a car, or caused a massive fuel fire in that area. Why do so many people still support Israel? Because they don't know. Because let me tell you something, okay? I read so much from the Israeli side, so much, nonstop. As much as I learn and cover on the Palestinian side, I read so much on the Israeli side. And one thing that I have heard is that they are not covering what is going on in Gaza at all. They do not have any journalists that are even turning their fucking cameras in the direction of Gaza. They are not talking about Gaza at all. At all. Nothing on the West Bank, nothing on Gaza. A little bit on the West Bank, nothing on Gaza. Palestinians were being genocided. Prominent Holocaust scholars, this is a genocide. Israel, we want to do a genocide. Random Twitter blue user, well, actually, exactly. That's what my mom said too. She literally didn't know. Now she supports Palestine, unlike the rest of my fam who is still 100% pro-Israel because they hate Muslims. There is no Hassan's view count bot. Nice flex, dude. I read so much. I'm saying that I read a lot on the Israeli side as well, to get a better understanding. Okay? People do not know. People do not know. They do not know at all. They do not. This is a deliberate way to dehumanize those who you've declared enemy combatants and their family members. Okay? That's it. Yeah, we're going to talk about Blinken reportedly telling the Qatari prime minister to turn down the volume of anti-Israel incitement on Al Jazeera. Fucking insane. I'm not going to lie. Those who are more convincible than anyone else, in my opinion, are young American Jews. Okay? Given their proximity, given their history, given given the long shared history of Jewish people being persecuted, and the long history of Jewish people at the forefront of social justice, the most convincible people on this matter are absolutely absolutely young American Jews, okay? That's why you see young American Jews at the forefront of the anti-occupation movement in this country. Way more so than Christians, I will say, in my opinion. Many of them are some of the most outspoken anti-colonial, anti-Zionist voices. Yes, I disagree with that. No, they get fed a metric ton of propaganda in Jewish schooling, in the Jewish schooling system, in Hebrew school, and like camps and whatnot. But ultimately, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. As someone who's Jewish American and a grandchild of Holocaust survivors who's been to the camps, I think that overall, like, there's a lot of pro-Israel sentiment I feel that they view. Yes, that information is learned for sure. That information is taught. But I think, in my experience, I think that it's like, as long as you show a lot of people the other side that they rarely have ever seen, and you explain to them that these are human beings that are being subjected to horrifying conditions for no reason other than just land grabs by a right-wing fascist government. I think most people recognize that. Something to also consider, like I said, because, Jewish people are again historically at the forefront of social justice causes. What is this? This person blocked me. Gideon Levy is a columnist for the left-wing Haaretz who's won the Sokolov Award for Israeli journalism. Levi gives fascinating insight into political views of the Zionist government from his speech 5 years ago. The first value is hiding behind the Chosenite status.
Both left.
I don't know who this fucking guy is who atavistic nationalism, Rainbluter. I feel like this guy's fucking... I feel like... Is this guy like a Nazi or some shit? I mean, it doesn't matter. This is Gideon Levy, who is awesome, but it might be some fucking weird red flag here. The weirdo who posted this video. An American Jew who grew up in Jewish institutions in the late 80s and 90s, I was fed so much pro-Israel propaganda, like you said, Hebrew school, camps, birthright, etc. Yeah, I think this guy Gideon Levy is awesome. If whites in the United States summarize or notice these things, they're called anti-Semitic and terrorists. Okay, fuck this guy. Never send me a link from a fucking Nazi piece of shit ever again. The guy who he posted, Gideon Levy, is actually a dope journalist and awesome, and but the person who posted that is like probably a Nazi. Yeah, atavistic nationalism. Give me a fucking break. Anyway. I think you're underestimating the amount of American Jews that also fall for the propaganda. All I'm stating is that given the long history of Jewish people being at the forefront of social justice causes historically in the anti-apartheid struggle. Don't take my word for it. Take Nelson Mandela's word for it. He was asked about this very question, when he talked about Israel's apartheid. Where he said, my lawyer is Jewish. The first car I was able to drive in was owned by a Jewish man. Jewish people have been at the forefront on the anti-colonial and anti-apartheid struggle. This is not something you can fucking cast aside. I'm not saying Jews are a monolith, of course. That would be anti-Semitic. I'm simply stating that I'm simply stating that throughout history, Jews have been made to be the villain time and time again. Okay? Time and time again. anti-Semitism has taken root anytime material conditions worsen. Okay? This much is consistent. Pogroms have happened as a consequence of this. Horrifying things have happened as a consequence of this to Jewish people. And of course, the Holocaust as well. And time again, Jews have always been at the forefront of anti-colonial struggle, anti-apartheid struggle, and every different kind of social justice movement. It's not something you can just simply forget or cast aside just because Israel and the right-wing theocratic fascist Israeli government regularly tries to muddy the waters and act as though they are the representative of all Jews and what it means to be Jewish. Okay? Is it something about one Israeli life being worth 1,000 or something? Can you show me the source? Yes, one Israeli life being worth 1,000 Palestinians is the prisoner swap that happened a couple years back. Where one Israeli, when one IDF member was swapped for 1,000 Gilad Shalit. One IDF soldier was swapped for 1,000 Palestinians in prison. Now, let me explain to you something, though, because a lot of those fucking Palestinians in prison are not even in prison for, like, murder. You know what I mean? They're not in prison for, like, actual good reason. So you have to understand that needs to be a part of your framework when you're analyzing the situation, because most people think, like, oh, well, what the fuck have they done? Then why? Brother, it is an apartheid state. It is illegal to be Palestinian. That's it. Okay, it's illegal to be Palestinian within eyesight of a settler in the West Bank. It's illegal to be Palestinian and not be able to take off your fucking belt as quickly as possible when you're at a checkpoint. These are things that you cannot imagine. It's illegal to be Palestinian and protest. It's illegal to be Palestinian and defend yourself against settlers in the West Bank. It's right now. Here, I'll give you a great example. Israel offered Gazans work visas and work permits, okay, which allowed them to free travel into Israel proper. And there are thousands of Gazans right now whose immigration status is immediately, permanently in limbo. They are illegally inside of Israel right now because they're working in Israel. They were offered permits. And Israel quietly said all 2,000 Gazan work permits have now been destroyed. And every single Gazan Palestinian that was inside of the arbitrary boundaries of Israel proper are now illegally there. Think about that. It's that quick. How do you know so much? Where do you get your info? I read, motherfucker. I read. This is also something that is very important to me because I feel like it's being done with my money. You know what I mean? Oh, it was George Galloway who said that. Oh, shit. I thought it was Nelson Mandela. I was wrong. It was George Galloway that talked about how, it wasn't Nelson Mandela. I was wrong. It was George Galloway that talked about how Jews have been at the forefront of the anti-apartheid struggle. More messages from that chatter. Remaining family in Gaza have been spared, but they lost their homes. They sent one message every day to say, we're okay, please pray. Then they turn off their phones until next morning. When they let us know that they're still alive, they have not complained once. Just praise God. I am not religious, but their strength has inspired me. I hope the world likewise remembers their strength and fearlessness. Remaining family in Gaza lost their homes, but their lives have been spared so far. I have many other family members who have so far been spared. That's crazy, dude. I mean, this is like these are people. These are human beings, man. They have dreams. They have hopes. They want to work. They want to live a life of dignity. They deserve to live a life of dignity. And yet, we've robbed them of that. We've robbed them of that for decades. It's unimaginable cruelty, and it's being done with our money. It's being done with our go-ahead. Okay? Sorry for the repetition again. I don't know what the rules are. Our messages get blocked. Don't worry about it. U.S. intelligence officials said on Tuesday that agencies had assessed the video showing a Palestinian rocket launch from Gaza undergoing a catastrophic motor failure before part of the rocket crashed in the hospital grounds. A senior intelligence official said that the authorities could not rule out that new information would come to light that would change their assessment, but said they had high confidence in their conclusions. Asked about the Times' findings, a spokesman for the Office of the Director of National Intelligence said the Times and American intelligence agencies had different interpretations of the video. Oh, I guess so. Okay. Well, I guess you guys had a different interpretation. Never mind. Discerning what happened is especially complicated because Israel and Hamas have been firing at each other since the war began. Israel's fired more than 8,000 munitions in the Gaza in what has become a brutal assault and had even hit the Al Ahli Arab Hospital with an illumination artillery shell 3 days earlier, according to the video evidence of the hospital's official Facebook page. Hamas and Islamic Jihad have continued to target Israel with deadly rockets with hidden launch sites inside of Gaza. Palestinian rockets have malfunctioned in the past, and one estimate says 15% of the rockets launched by Gaza militant groups failed. Within an hour of the hospital blast, an information war began. Hamas immediately blamed an Israeli airstrike, while the Israel Defense Forces soon denied any responsibility and placed the blame on a malfunctioning Palestinian rocket. Israeli officials released a report about the explosion on October 18th and also made one public conversation they said was intercepted between Hamas fighters blaming Islamic Jihad for the blast. Israel has also cited several other pieces of evidence that have not been made public, including logs of military activity, information gleaned from radar systems, other audio intercepts, and other videos. Meanwhile, Israeli officials have pointed to the Al Jazeera video in media interviews and social media. The Al Jazeera video footage was shared 3 times by Israel Defense Forces on X, formerly known as Twitter. In the post, the Israeli military identified the moving aerial object as a rocket aimed at Israel that misfired and exploded at nearly the same time as the Al Ahli Arab Hospital blast. Spokesman for the Israeli military also explicitly identified this munition as the misfired rocket that caused the explosion in interviews with CNN, the BBC, and in an interview with India Today on October 19th. They fucking lied. They lied over and over and over again. And the media not only took it, hook, line, and sinker, but they immediately fucking apologized for it. They literally apologized for it. They said, "I'm so sorry." When I went on the BBC, not after Piers Morgan, I went on the BBC the next day, and the guest before me was screaming at the BBC for doing blood libel, as though it's blood libel to think that after 8,000 rockets have been dropped on top of Gaza, this 8,001st rocket would also be an Israeli one. That's how fucking insane it is. That's the level of arrogance. This is not a 100% certainty. I have to tell you this again. There is still a likelihood that this could be a misfired rocket, none of which changes the ethnic cleansing campaign that Israel is engaging in. But this aspect of the coverage is very important. It's very important to understand how quickly Western media took the IDF narrative and ran with it, even though they did not offer good enough evidence. They did not. And I am a fucking idiot. Like, I am a Twitch streamer. If I, with my own 2 eyes, could look at this information on October 18th, October 19th, and also see that this was bullshit and it was inconsistent, then how can you not see it? If you're in the media, you have entire teams. But the Times concluded that the missile in the video was never near the hospital. It was launched from Israel, not Gaza, and appears to have exploded above the Israeli-Gaza border, at least 2 miles away from the hospital. So that's important to understand. Here, they looked at all of it. The Nahal Oz interceptor is what actually fucking exploded. Like, approximate area where the midair detonation was visible in the videos, like around here. There's an Iron Dome site right there. To trace the object back in the sky, to trace the object in the sky back to Israeli territory, the Times synchronized the Al Jazeera footage with 5 other videos filmed at the same time, including footage from an Israeli television station, Channel 12, and a CCTV camera in Tel Aviv. These different videos provided a view of the missile from the north, south, east, and west. Using satellite imagery to triangulate the launch point in these videos, the Times determined that the projectile was fired toward Gaza from near the Israeli town of Nahal Oz shortly before the deadly hospital blast. The findings match the conclusion reached by some online researchers. I need you to understand, okay? If you were in here immediately fucking running immediately running with the conclusion like, oh, dude, you're crazy. Like, you're wrong. And all your entire goal for the next week was to basically come back in here and be like, I told you so, Hassan. When I also personally readily admitted that there, once I looked at the impact crater, that this is inconsistent with the JDAM, immediately recognized that, which we still have no answer for the audio signatures from the balcony footage, which Evan has told me there will be more answers on. Okay. What the fuck? There's so-called circumstantial evidence. So I've only heard so far crater in the video from the Washington Post, and yet the video is shown to use otherwise anyway. Someone make it make sense. In addition, the video showed that the projectile in the Al Jazeera footage was launched over a barrage of Palestinian rockets. Israeli officials assessed was responsible for the hospital explosion. From 6:59 p.m. on October 17, barrages of Palestinian rockets are fired from two positions southwest and northwest of the Al Ahli Arab Hospital, the video show. Flames of the Palestinian rockets are visible in the nighttime skies. Their engine propelled them northeast towards Israel. More than 25 seconds elapsed between the final Palestinian rocket and the hospital explosion. The Times cannot independently identify the type of projectile that was fired from Israel, though it was launched from an area known to have an Iron Dome defense system. The Israeli military says it doesn't fire Iron Dome interceptors into Gaza, and indeed the missile seen in the video may not have crossed over into Gazan territory. The Israeli military has stated that the Iron Dome did not shoot any interceptors in the questioned time and area, except the video footage disproves that. So it's important work and it will continue, and we probably will not have conclusive evidence for weeks or months on end. Okay? It's crazy how often you don't finish a thought. I know, because I fucking keep responding to people in the chat. I don't even know what to say about this style of social media propaganda. What is this? They who must be named Hamas equals ISIS. Oh my God, this Hamas equals ISIS shit is also fucking so stupid. It's so ahistorical. I'm going to go ahead and say it's fucking racist, okay? The Hamas is ISIS narrative is so fucking stupid and only works for dumb white Ameroid apes who fucking don't understand that, like, these are warring factions, okay? It's so frustrating. It is so fucking racist. I'm losing my fucking mind. It literally is the exact same thing, the same energy as George W. Bush after 9/11 doing the Axis of Evil speech and then adding Iran into that speech, okay? And being like, Iran is also responsible for 9/11 in the Axis of Evil. When Iran was like, the fuck? Why you say fuck me for? You're about to use me for the next 20 years to fucking combat the mess you made, you fucking assholes, which is true. Imagine having 17 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11 be Saudi Arabian nationals, okay? And then turning around and being like, Iran is responsible for the Axis of Evil alongside Afghanistan and Iraq. It's insane to me. Like, literally pointing at the guys who literally are the number one enemies of Saudis in the fucking region and being like, they did this. So annoying. It's crazy how well I can pick up a thought and run it again. Yeah, but sometimes I literally forget to run the top of the hour ad break in the middle of all of that, which is not good. And then I have to run it 24 minutes into the top of the hour. But I digress. At the top of the hour, there's a 3-minute ad break. If you no longer want to see those ads, all you need to do is subscribe for $5 or for free with a Twitch Prime. You can also get gifted a sub if you're lucky. Here's a 3-minute ad break now. Yeah. This is also fucking gross, too. Israeli soldiers capture suspected Hamas fighters and make them hold the Israeli flag and chant "Long live Israel." By the way, these are just civilian workers who were arrested by the Israeli forces who just said they were Hamas fighters. By the way, Israel has gone nutty with it in a way that I think resembles America's actions in both Afghanistan and Iraq. They're doing like, a lot of people forget that there are rules to war, right? There are rules to what you can and can't do with your fucking captives. This is not something you are allowed to do. I don't care how fucking racist you are. I don't care how violent you suspect the people that you intercepted, the people that you arrested are, okay? This is completely unacceptable, okay? It is a fucking war crime. This is like, we are nearing the Abu Ghraib bullshit right now. We are so close. I've read so many fucking accounts of Russian forces engaging in acts of torture on Ukrainians that they fucking apprehend, okay? To extract information out of them or to even get like forced confessions out of them and shit. And it's so wild that we watch the exact same shit, if not significantly fucking worse, being done by Israel. Not even just this. It is so psychotic that this kind of activity is like championed, channeled, and defended. Anyway, did you see that some Israel lobby org put ceasefires anti-Semitism on signs in Times Square? It made me actually sick to my stomach. Yeah, it's so fucking unhinged. Oh. Many stories from loved ones in Gaza. Israel has repeatedly blocked the marriage of another one of my cousins in Gaza and his longtime girlfriend, a U.S. citizen. Israel blocked every permanent application to leave Gaza to make it into his embassy appointment in Egypt for years. No freedom of movement, no dignity. They aren't hurting him, though? Dude, that's insane. Can you imagine apprehending someone that you just immediately say is a fucking terrorist and then making them hold the Israeli flag and shit? Like, what are you doing? Do a little bit of role reversal. Forget that they're fucking Arabs in your mind for a second and think maybe they're Jewish workers that the Nazis apprehended. The fuck do you mean? Like, I don't think people understand. When you have someone in your, when you have robbed someone of their freedom, there are very specific rules. When you have detained someone, there are very specific rules. This person is now, you can't humiliate them. This person is your prisoner, okay? It is psychotic to look at this and go, well, they're not like beating the shit out of him. They're simply just like, making fun of him and dehumanizing him further. You can't do that. If I ever get detained, I want to be detained by them law, says Shawarma Ghanem. Yeah, dude. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you wish to be a fucking Gazan worker on a worker's permit in Israel. Nice. What a psychotic take. Very few people on the planet would swap places in that regard. Actually, probably no one. I love this, dude. This is like hyper-nationalistic and psychopathic fascist sentiment being expressed so willingly on the timeline, and people don't recognize it. Why? Why do you not recognize that? Anyway. I remember you saying that trans allies get similar vitriol to trans people when they advocate for their rights. I've had a similar experience. I'm Jewish. I like to post calling for Palestinian rights, and someone called me a Nazi collaborator. I can't imagine what Palestinians have to deal with. Solidarity to them. Yes. It's just like... Biden holds joint news conference with the Australian Prime Minister and says Hamas does not represent the vast majority of Palestinians in Gaza. Yeah. I want to point out something here, okay? This is a really good fucking take from Felix. I've seen this, okay? I've seen this post circulating on the timeline from a behavioral economist, founder of Coheal, and a few other companies helping people withdraw from prescription meds. Sarah Nadav says, I want to see the mass graves. The refrigerated trucks full of bodies or corpses rotting in the street. There is no way Gazas could cope with 5,000 dead bodies this quickly, especially since they claim lack of electricity and water. Where are the pictures? So far, there are almost 300 comments and not a single picture of a funeral or a grave. Okay? To which Felix pointed out, one of my favorite scenes in Band of Brothers is in Why We Fight, which is the best episode in Band of Brothers. For those of you who haven't watched Band of Brothers, great episode. It's very traumatic. It is a 1-to-1 identical. Like I've read a lot on the Holocaust. I've seen the many photos taken at the time from concentration camps. It is a 1-to-1 horrifying comparison, but it's very accurate, historically accurate. The Why We Fight episode, when they finally, for the first time ever, see a concentration camp and are completely oblivious to the horrors that unfold, that they don't even realize what is going on in said concentration camps. And there's a scene in Band of Brothers and Why We Fight when that dumbass baker is whining to Easy Company about how they're requisitioning his goods for the camp victims, and Webster sticks his 1911 in his mouth. So many Zionists are the baker. Shut up. I said, shut up, you Nazi fuck, says David Webster, grabs the baker. The baker says, I'm not a Nazi. David Webster responds, oh, you're not a Nazi? My mistake, you fat fucking prick. What about a human being? Here, I'll just, you know what? I want to show you this. I'll show you the scene instead of reading it. Let's see if we can find it. Maybe they can. Oh, here it is. So they're taking all of the German bakers. There's a concentration camp down the fucking street, basically. Okay, a couple miles down the street. And they are taking this German baker's food to deliver it to the concentration camp, which they, by the way, also in another horrifying part of this, have to stop feeding the individuals in the concentration camp because they'll fucking die. They realize very quickly that if they eat for the first time ever, after not being able to eat, they will die. But that's a different story.
Take it off. Check the bag and shut up.
Yeah, refeeding syndrome.
Not a Nazi. My mistake, you fat fucking prick. How about a human being? Are you one of those? Or are you gonna tell me that you never smelled the fucking stench?
Töten Sie mich nicht, bitte. Bitte töten Sie mich nicht. Ich verstehe nicht, was Sie da sagen.
Webb, he says he doesn't know what the hell you're talking about.
Bullshit.
Yeah. He smelled it. He smelled it every day. Töten Sie mich nicht. Bitte töten Sie nicht mich. Mich nicht. Please don't kill me. Ich verstehe nicht, was du da sagst. It is impossible. At a certain point, it is fucking impossible to turn a blind eye to the atrocities, dude. It's impossible. Okay? And for the record, I have seen the fucking photos, contrary to what this freak is saying here. Okay? If you haven't seen the photos, it's because you're not paying attention. For as many GoPro footage as there are for the October 7th operations, and there are some gruesome fucking images, 100%. This notion that like October 7th was a perfectly executed military operation is a falsehood. Okay? It's not true. It was gruesome. 100%. It was. But for as many October 7 footages there are that like journalists get to watch horrified behind closed doors at the behest of the Israeli government, there are thousands more lifeless children's bodies that have been recovered from the goddamn rubble. Just that no one is showing that. No one is aware of it. At this point, unrelated to the Gazan health ministry, like doctors and healthcare professionals in Gaza, every time they come out with a statement, they literally put the bodies right next to them. Yeah, I know. There's plenty of footage of mass graves. Gazans using ice cream trucks because the morgues are overfilled. And all of this is happening while Israel has deliberately shut off access. No electricity, no fuel, no internet. Internet is patchy inside of Gaza by design. So they can fucking control the narrative. Devastating. So cruel. It's so unusual. They have an excuse for every photo. It's not that they don't see it. They just don't care. Exactly. What is this? Were you surprised when you saw the Westerners calling every opposition person in the idea Nazi affiliated? Russia calls Ukrainians Nazis for justification and conservatives believe it. No, conservatives are fucking stupid, okay? And Russia's decision to denazify Ukraine is also a ridiculous one. I've talked about this quite a bit. Like, it's just, it doesn't matter. It's just propaganda. People love trying to justify their own cause. I mean, the former prime minister literally said fair coverage or both sides coverage showing the Palestinian side in this serves Hamas. That's what he said. Not my take on it. It's his take on it. You don't have to search super far and super wide to arrive at this conclusion. You will find an Israeli official openly admit said things, sometimes even in English. And the grossest part now is fucking Brandon also running along with this disgusting, horrifying genocide denial rhetoric, claiming that perhaps the death tolls are actually overestimated. Genocide Joe, baby.
Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed. I'm sure innocents have been killed. Palestinians are telling the truth about how many people are killed. I'm sure innocents have been killed, and it's the price of waging a war. I think we should be incredibly careful. I think not we, the Israelis should be incredibly careful to be sure that they're focusing on going after the folks that are propagating this war against Israel. And it's against their interest when that doesn't happen. But I have no confidence in the number that the Palestinians are using. Palestinians are telling
Fucking disgusting, dude. What a fucking filthy piece of shit he is. An animal. I think, I mean, I don't know. I mean, this is the type of shit that you say. This is the type of shit. I saw a tweet about this. This rhetoric, alongside with what fucking John Kirby said yesterday about, like, well, some civilians are going to die and there's not much we can do, is the fucking footage that you watch back from a plexiglass inside of The Hague 10 years down the line, okay? If there was any justice, this is what you would hear back. This footage right here, this very moment, right here, is exactly what you hear back on the other side of a fucking plexiglass as you're sitting there with your hands cuffed in front of you. Okay? And they read it out and go, what did you mean by this? What did you mean by this? Of course, it will not happen because there is no justice.
It is war. It is combat. It is bloody. It is ugly. And it's going to be messy.
Yeah, this is the kind of statement people in Serbia and Rwanda got played back at them while they were sitting in a glass box in the Netherlands, except Serbia and Rwanda, not America. Never America. It will never happen to America.
And innocent civilians are going to be hurt going forward. I wish I could tell you something different. I wish that wasn't going to happen. But it is going to happen. And that doesn't make it right. It doesn't make it dismissible. It doesn't mean that we aren't going to still express concerns about that and do everything we can to help the Israelis do everything they can to minimize it.
Yeah, no, totally. Yeah, great stuff here.
anger, the hurt, the sense of outrage that the Israeli people are feeling after the brutally inflicted devastation by Hamas is completely understandable. Israel has the right, and I would add a responsibility, to respond to the slaughter of their people. And we will ensure Israel has what it needs to defend itself against these terrorists. That's a guarantee. We also have to remember that Hamas does not represent, let me say it again, Hamas does not represent the vast majority of the Palestinian people on the Gaza Strip or anywhere else. Hamas is hiding behind Palestinian civilians and is despicable and, not surprisingly, cowardly as well. This also puts an added burden on Israel while they go after Hamas. But that does not lessen the need to operate in line with the laws of war. For Israel, it has to do everything in its power. Israel has to do everything in its power. As difficult it is to protect innocent civilians, and it's difficult. I want to thank the Israelis and the Palestinian, and President Sisi of Egypt for working with the United States to make sure that food, water, and medical supplies are getting through to innocent people in Gaza. The flow needs to increase, and we're working very hard with our partners to make that happen. We're also working around the clock together with our partners in the region to secure the release of hostages, and including American citizens behind.
He's like Hollywood celebrities. I hear you. I see you. Amy Schumer, thank you for sending me that open letter, Jack. Made me understand, yeah, you're right. We got to release the civilians. We got to release the hostages. Aubrey Plaza, you're right.
Left behind and held by Hamas, and the safe passage of foreign nationals out of Gaza, not just Americans, but Australians and a whole range of people who are trapped in Gaza. I also want to take a moment to look ahead.
You said if you were a politician, what kind of speech would you give? Dude, every day I talk about it. Every day. I've talked about it on television. I've talked about it every fucking day. I don't know what to tell you.
Toward the future that we seek. Israelis and Palestinians equally deserve to live side by side in safety, dignity, and peace. There's no going back to the status quo as it stood on October the 6th. That means ensuring Hamas can no longer terrorize Israel and use Palestinian civilians as human shields. It also means
the human shields narrative, dude. Yeah. Was the Al Jazeera reporter's family human shields? Was that one Chatter's 17-year-old cousin, Khaled? Was he a human shield? Was he shielding rockets? As much as information is and access is cut off into Gaza, like, there are still humans, right? Palestinians are still human beings, no matter how desperately these fucking animals try to dehumanize them. And you can talk to them. They're around. They are people that you can hear from. Of course, if you are already so sucked into this idea that they are not human, then yeah, you will be like, well, maybe all of the Palestinians are collectively lying. They must be. They must all be collectively lying about the human shield thing. Yeah. All of these baby human shields.
And when this crisis is over, there has to be a vision of what comes next. And in our view, it has to be a two-state solution. It means a concentrated effort from all the parties, Israelis, Palestinians, regional partners, global leaders, to put us on a path toward peace. In the past few weeks, I've spoken to leaders throughout the region, including King Abdullah of Jordan, President Sisi of Egypt, President Abbas of the Palestinian Authority, and just yesterday with the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, about making sure there's real hope in the region for a better future, about the need, and I mean this sincerely, about the need to work toward a greater integration for Israel, while insisting that the aspirations of the Palestinian people will be part of that future as well. I'm convinced One of the reasons Hamas attacked when they did, I have no proof of this, just my instinct tells me, is because of the progress we were making towards regional integration.
Is it an example of a functioning two-state solution? Or is it just a nice word to use in politics? I mean, I guess you could say Ireland, but also it doesn't even fucking matter because the entire, there's no two-state. There is no two-state solution. The two-state solution is just a way that Israel has tried to continuously engage in indefensible acts of expansion and settler terrorism while saying like, oh, we just want to do a two-state solution. Come on. It's a two-state solution. It's a lie. Complete lie. Okay? It just buys them more time to continue doing genocide. Yeah, MBS is the guy I talked to about human rights law. Yeah, literally. There is no two-state solution with one state having the standing military in operation in the second state, okay? Palestinians have never been given a place for themselves devoid of Israeli control. Not in Gaza after 2005 and never in the West Bank. Ridiculous.
For Israel and regional integration overall. And we can't leave that work behind. And one more word on this. I continue to be alarmed about extremist settlers attacking Palestinians in the West Bank, that pouring gasoline on fire is what it's like. This was a deal. The deal was made, and they're attacking Palestinians in places that they're entitled to be. And it has to stop. They have to be held accountable.
Yeah, the Eye on Palestine account that I've used time and time again has been removed by Instagram. Completely unacceptable. Disgusting. Gross.
And it has to stop now.
Thanks for watching.
Yeah. The only part of this speech that was good is at least he had the audacity, at least he had the decency, rather, to turn around and admit that the extremist messianic settlers, the messianic Jews, most of them American, by the way, backed by American evangelical movements, are engaging in an act of terror. Which is true. They are. Their existence in the West Bank is an existence of terror. Two-state in Ireland is ultimately a failed promise. We were promised in writing by the British to have reunification after the Anglo-Irish War for Independence. We still haven't been getting that. So forgive me if I laugh when these dopes talk about a two-state solution. I'm just saying, like it's even that's not great, but still better than the current situation. According to Al Jazeera, Sharif Mansour, a representative of the Committee to Protect Journalists, has said 24 media workers have been killed in the current Israel-Gaza war. Anyway, you cannot have a two-state solution without purging, okay, literally purging, which is inherently an act of violence, the 500,000 settlers in the West Bank.
Damn, this guy's good.